guys. Welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 89, Buy, Sell, or Hold. We now have our own free Discord, Patreon as well. Please DM us if you guys are interested. On the Twitter X, we also all have Blue Skies accounts now. I believe we're all the same handles on the Blue Sky as well. And please like, comment, and subscribe. I got Holler and McSpanky with me tonight. How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's going, man. We got some action going tonight in college football.
Action.
You gotta love
There's some
that.
Tuesday night action as well.
There was Tuesday night action. It's fantastic.
I don't know if it was a couple weeks ago now, but I can't remember the number, but there was like upwards of like 60 to 70 straight days of football. It was insane with the guys, with the games on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, like craziness. Super cool.
Yes, indeed.
I haven't gotten myself to really watch on the Tuesday, Wednesdays, but sometimes when I get into my crazy betting, I do sometimes, but I haven't been doing as well with my over-unders, so I've been taking a step back a little bit.
Yeah, I've had to stop the Tuesday, Wednesday night games from Underdog because it's like, we need to dial this back. We got to rein this in.
But man, I am loving college football this year. I'm diving into 25 rankings early. It's really, really fun. So hopefully to get some rankings out here in the next week or so.
Yeah. You guys are talking about it. I'm hyped to watch the film. I'm hyped to get into that.
Perfect.
I'm waiting for my Christmas
to get into
break.
The numbers.
Yeah.
The numbers. The sheets are my Christmas present.
Agreed.
Getting all the data in there, and sometimes I get too much on the data, but it works out sometimes.
Sometimes you have to do it off of your hype and your feel, right? And it works.
Sometimes vibes only.
All vibes, baby.
Right.
All vibes.
That's right. There's a couple guys that are just like have that feeling, have a good
more than a feeling
about them. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay. Should we pop into the news here?
Let's do it.
All right. The Bears have relieved Shane Waldron and the rest of the NFL of his offensive coordinating duties. Free us from this pain.
Finally.
Anthony Richardson. Yeah, right. Anthony Richardson is back to a starting quarterback. I thought we were going to see Joe Flacco the rest of the year. It was a short 2-week experiment here. Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco's practice window has opened. T-Law with a shoulder injury. He is out this week already. May return after the bye. Dalton Kincaid did not practice today with his knee injury. Gardner Minshew is starting again for the Raiders. What jumps out to you guys out of this news here?
So first, the Bears, new offensive coordinator. I don't expect anything to change too terribly a lot. A lot of times, though, you will see like a one-game kind of like bump when a new coordinator comes in or a new head coach, or in this case, an offensive coordinator, where guys are fired up to play for the new guy and kind of prove like, hey, like we don't all suck. So there might be a nice offensive game out of Chicago this week, but I don't expect things to change too terribly.
I think top down, there's just too many problems there. I think overall, we'll get to Caleb in a little bit, but I just think overall there's a lot of issues there. They've had some solid outings per se, but just they can't put it all together. There's games that their defense looks good. There's games that some of their offensive players look good, but top down, I just think there's some issues there. So I think that's the big one that jumps out. And I was kind of surprised you said that you thought we'd see Joe Flacco the rest of the year on.
That's what they told us. That's what Shane Steichen said.
Of course, but I think Steichen's now kind of trying to keep his job. Yeah. And so I figured, I think when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, I thought, we'd probably see Richardson again. I just didn't know exactly when. I thought this is pretty quick turnaround again.
Yeah.
It's good in my opinion that we're going to see Richardson again, but in all honesty, I don't think we're going to see much different. Like he's going to be the same guy. They don't magically change in 2 weeks, right? And so, I saw some questions about if we're buying or selling, and I think it's all the same. If you were selling a couple weeks ago, you're still selling. If you were buying a couple weeks ago, you're still buying. I'm the same way. I'm kind of out on him.
I'm out as well. I think it's just if you didn't get a chance to sell him yet, this gives you another sell window.
He was open a little bit,
Especially,
yeah.
I would try to do it before he plays another snap because sometimes
Right.
it's ugly if you've ever watched him. He does have some nice moments too, and if you want to roll the dice and hope he has a nice bounce back game, and then try to sell him, that's also a take there too. It just depends on your risk appetite, right? I think I might roll the dice on that one with a couple of my shares. I don't have a ton of them anyways, but I don't think, like we talked about, like you don't just magically. It's not like he got benched for 2 weeks. Now he's like, okay, now I know how to play quarterback. In the
Exactly.
NFL.
And to me, like Joe Flacco didn't look very good. Like obviously, he probably he's a knowledgeable guy, so I'm sure he was helping him a little bit. But I don't know. I just think it's a bigger issue than just sit him down for a couple weeks and he'll learn it, right? I think it's just a bigger issue. It's going to take time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hoping for a bounce back game, honestly, because it was tough in the streets to move him pre-benching because it was pretty darn bad. So yeah, I'm just hoping that he has a bounce back game. And I'm also kind of saying good luck on the bounce back game because he goes Jets, Lions, and Patriots. Patriots could be the bounce back spot. I don't know.
Jets haven't looked their defense hasn't looked good. So
right, but
I know
Anthony
they have
Richardson
solid guys.
Make that defense look good.
True, very true. I just pulled up Dynasty Daddy looking at some trades, and it's all over the place. There's a first and a third for Richardson and a second done today. Addison for Richardson today. Diggs for Richardson today.
Jeez.
So just all over the place. Daniel Jones and Jamar Chase for CeeDee Lamb and Anthony Richardson. I think that one's kind of an even trade there. Because we're not sure if Daniel Jones is going to be starting. So it's all over the place though. Like, I think like you said, Ron, it's tough to move him. If you could get a first for him, I'd smash the first. Because I don't know. Maybe we see him the rest of the year, but I don't know if they move on from Steichen. And they're an early pick, and maybe roll with one of the new 25 quarterbacks.
Do you think they? Well, do you think they would replace him with one of these upcoming quarterbacks? I mean, we were kind of talking before that we're not necessarily high on this quarterback class, but
no.
But also, like if a new regime comes in, like they probably don't want to tie their. Do you think they give him another year and like hope for a better QB class in the following year, or do you think they just are like, no, let's figure this out and get rid of him?
It's tough to say. Like he is on the books for the rookie contract, so it's not expensive. I think maybe they continue rolling with a backup quarterback, and maybe they go with Richardson, or if he doesn't play well, then move on. Then I don't know. I think it will really tell the next couple of weeks how Richardson responds. Right. I think the bigger thing is if we can see some more leadership, then maybe he has some good moments and things like that. He can grow. I think that will be a big thing. Then I think at the end of the year, really, it's going to depend on if Steichen's there or not.
Let's start with, can he just complete 50% of his passes? That's all I really. Let's start there for step one. Baby steps, and then he can get going. And some of the other stuff, but like, man, he's just been awful. And then this sucks for Josh Downs too.
Yes,
because I know Josh Downs managers were stoked. They're like, oh, finally, we're going to get to start him again, and then now it's like, well, maybe not.
Right.
Quarterbacks just have been atrocious this year to begin with. Like, there's been a ton of injuries. There's been a ton of guys who we thought were going to be good, and then they've been bad. I mean, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford hasn't been great either. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been very good. There's just been a ton of guys that got hurt. It's just been absolutely brutal. I know Dak just got hurt and he got put on IR or whatever, or with this surgery.
I believe his season's done. Yeah. Yep.
And then Trevor Lawrence, we don't know if he's going to be done for another week or if he's going to be done for the rest of the season. I've read multiple reports of both things. So I really think it's going to be week by week there. So that's another big one. Like, it's just been rough this year with injuries, and especially I think at the quarterback spot. With Baker being one of the top quarterbacks. Nothing against Baker, but that's not usually a good sign.
Yeah. There's definitely an oddity, and he's throwing to K-Dot and then, a bunch of dudes off the street, right now. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Still putting up good numbers. So that was the other thing that kind of stuck out to me. And then Pacheco, I think once he's back, I think Kareem Hunt might be toast. But I think they'll probably use both of them, obviously. So unfortunately, I think it's going to just take away from Pacheco more than anything. Then I don't think you'll be able to feel comfortable starting Kareem Hunt anymore. You probably should feel comfortable starting Pacheco with that pass catching work that he'll get.
Do you think Pacheco will get the pass catching work, or do you think Hunt will? Because I feel like Kareem Hunt's a pretty good catcher. I think he's more natural at it than Pacheco is, but I'm curious how they're going to split that, because I could see it where Hunt maybe gets some third down work, but I could also see it they just straight up like split series, because they both can kind of do a little bit of both, and so I'm curious to see how they play that.
I think I'm with you there. I think they run a little bit similar, right? They're the same kind of back, obviously different sizes and stuff, but I think they're kind of have some of the similar traits. So I think it could be split series, or maybe they use Hunt more on third down. So I think it really just will depend. We'll have to wait and see. You never know what the Chiefs are going to do.
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes them so good.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely keep the other guy guessing. That's for
not
sure.
Mahomes. I tell you that. At least not for fantasy.
Oh lordy. Okay. Should we pop into some dynasty updates here?
Let's do it.
Okay. We got Caleb Williams as quarterback 11 right now on KTC. It's going around an early 25 first. And I got a visitor, sorry. Quarterback 21 on the season with 3 top 12 weeks.
So here's what I was thinking with Caleb Williams, right? So all these prices, the rankings we got from Keep Trade Cut, right? Which, I mean, say what you want about Keep Trade Cut, it's a nice little. Nice. We got a guest host. Keep Trade Cut does have kind of a nice pulse on where other people are viewing it. Now, your league obviously has its own, ranking systems that the managers have. But if we're valuing him at a 25 first, we know the quarterback class isn't very good next year. So there's finally a real expert. There's an argument to be made that you should keep him just because the quarterbacks aren't gonna be there, right? But if I told you if you could sell Caleb Williams for the 102 and you get one of Ashton Jeanty or Ted McMillan, I mean, would you cash that in right now, or what are you guys thinking there?
So for me, it will obviously, I might cop out a little bit, but depending on who I have at quarterback, but sure. Without stating there, I think I'm keeping Caleb, and the reason is just because your quarterbacks are your corner pieces, right? You can always have a fill in at running back or wide receiver, and we know that they can do well. And I think there's better days ahead for Caleb. Maybe not this whole year, right? Maybe he's just kind of middling QB2 this year, but I think there's better days ahead. He's a rookie. He's only played so many games. And in my opinion, there's better days ahead. We know Caleb is a good quarterback. Obviously he's had some bad traits that he played we even saw in college, right? And so he's going to need to grow and get better. So I think I would like to see what happens with the coaching staff, see how they do with the new offensive coordinator, and kind of really watch the rest of the year. And then maybe, at the end of the year. But I feel more comfortable, building my teams around cornerstone pieces of quarterbacks, right? And then kind of trying to fill in the other way around. You can always during the year, if your team's playing well, you can grab a usable player for a first or for a second or whatever that is. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I think the only pushback I have on it where it would make me consider is that I think those top couple guys in Ted McMillan and Ashton Jeanty, I think those are really, really good players, right? I don't think this is they're just a fine guy. I think this is Jamar Chase level kind of players, or like a Breece Hall when that was going, or Jahmyr Gibbs might be a better example. I don't know, man. It's just Caleb Williams. He had concerns. He arguably has had the best surrounding talent around him, coaching excluded, the best surrounding talent around him of any of the rookie quarterbacks. And he's played probably the worst out of all of them who have gotten on the field. Drake May's out there with a bunch of just knuckleheads off the street. This is the nicest thing I'm ever going to say about him, but he's looked fantastic. He's looked significantly better than Caleb Williams has.
Yep.
He's playing with a bunch of Jimmy and Joes out there. So I have concerns about whether or not Caleb Williams can do it long term. Obviously, better coaching will help him, but I'm not sure. I have my doubts of whether or not he is a cornerstone piece. I get theoretically he should be, but is he just another Trevor Lawrence where he's like, well, he was the 101. We're going to keep giving him opportunities after opportunities, and it's just like I don't know. And to be fair, I'm not saying he is that, but I just think there's definitely concern there. Whereas I feel like some of these other guys might be more of a sure thing.
Yeah, and so you talk about cornerstone pieces, and Tet and Genty can maybe be that, right? And so I just feel we don't want to. I just feel like I don't want to, like I'm like they're saying in the chat, like I'm not going to bail on Caleb just yet, and I think there's plenty of examples though, like Trevor Lawrence is a really, really good one, right? We're really like if you have Trevor Lawrence right now, you're really not feeling good. Your team's probably not doing very well unless you have a really deep quarterback bench, right? And so I just think he's at. I was scrolling through Dynasty Daddy and looking at all the different fantasy markets, and basically the average is he's at QB 10, right? And so I think right there is a good spot. I don't think we're going to see him drop down too much. And if he continues to have not a very good rest of the season, then I could see people taking that 102, 103 for him.
Man, I don't know. Like, I don't want to bail on him just yet, but I've also just been hurt with some of these guys who we hold on too long because we're like, they were drafted, the 101, 102, 103. And so the teams obviously weren't that great. To the point of, he needs an offensive line. How long have we been saying that about the Chicago Bears? When's the last time they had a good offensive line? Sometimes these franchises just don't. Like, we've been talking about how the Jets can't figure out a quarterback for decades now.
Forever,
Like, sometimes some of these teams, they just can't figure it out. Like, whether it's like their scouting, whether it's their coaching, it's just like a systemic problem. The Bears have never had a good quarterback. Arguably, Jay Cutler's been their best one. And that's not smoking good. Jay Cuddy isn't exactly like a Hall of Famer here. So,
chuck it, baby.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think there's an argument to be made. Like, if you feel like you can maneuver maybe like not like Geno Smith, but like a Geno Smith type maybe next year at quarterback and kind of maneuver your way into that, and then take like who I think might be a cornerstone and a Genty or a Ted McMillan, then I would have to think long and hard about doing that.
Sure. Totally.
But I don't blame you if you want to keep believing in Caleb too, because at the end of the day, like, he is talented. He was the 101 for a reason. It's just I don't know. It's a good discussion to have, though, right? I think you can talk yourself into either way.
And I feel like we could talk about it for the whole podcast today. Like, but I think really there's wherever you're going, I think you can make arguments for each side right now, and it'll be interesting to see if Caleb really does get better, because he needs to grow. He needs to change some things in order for him to be the quarterback he should be going at 101 in the draft.
Definitely. I pivoted early off of one, and I wound up, it was like Brock Purdy and Rashid Shaheed for Caleb when Shaheed was killing it. And I'm happy I did that. And I only have one more meaningful Caleb Williams share, so I'm probably going to hold on to it just because, he's so downtrodden right now, and, hope that they can get something right, just get a little bit of excitement, because like you guys are saying, he is a talented player and all those things, but a lot of the stuff that plagued him in college is already popping up in the NFL with the freelancing 100%. And the unwillingness to just do, the easy stuff, the check downs, he wants the big game, big play, all that 100%. Stuff.
And so before we move on,
ownership in the Bears, it was weird.
Yeah, I don't think it's not doing him any favors to land with the Bears. But before we move on from Caleb, where, like, I know this could sound a little hot takey, but like, if we were to redraft those rookie quarterbacks, I'm pretty sure the majority of your rookie drafts, he went 101. Let's re-rank those or redraft those. Obviously, I'm pretty sure Jalen Daniels is going to go into 101 in a lot of spots now for things that we know. But is it crazy to take like
Probably go
Bo
Neighbors
Nix
too.
or Drake May like before for Caleb now that like things we know and like how we know like thinking about the Bears and things like that. Like I don't know. I
Honestly,
think it's a little crazy.
I don't think it's terribly crazy. I don't know if
Yeah.
man, that's tough. I definitely
I
think
could take Drake May. I could take
I
Drake
could probably
May
do
because-
May. I could probably do Neighbors. I would probably do Neighbors in May 2 and 3, and then at 104, that's where it gets into do you want Caleb or do you want like a Bo Nix, who's not like a sexy player, but I mean he's at QB9 on the season, so
Yep.
And he doesn't exactly have a great talent pool around him either.
Nice.
So.
That's good. That's Bill, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's crazy, right? You may want to like if I'm moving Caleb for May, I might want to try to get a plus, but I don't think it needs to be too much, right? You know, I
straight up.
Like I made probably just for the majority of where I was in the draft, I have a ton of Jaden Daniels and JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix. You know, so for me, that's probably where it landed in the drafts. And Bo Nix, obviously, like a lot of people were out on him, so you were getting him super late in the first and early in the second. And I think he's exceeding most expectations for everybody. You know, but I think if I were to re-rank them, I might have I might have Drake May over Caleb, and like putting into more like how the franchise is and things like that. Like, you know, I think Drake May's in a better spot than Caleb.
Real quick, Greg, my apologies to little Jordan Humphrey in the family about his the talent of the Denver Broncos. But the thing with Caleb Williams too that I wanted to point out real quick, I was just pulling up their schedule. They haven't played any of their division games yet. So they still played the Packers twice, the Vikings twice, the Lions twice. The Lions defensive line, that's not going to be good times for Chicago, I would imagine. They have the 49ers, and then they also play the Seahawks, which, you know, Seahawks, whatever, they probably would have a nice game there. But I wouldn't expect too much out of Caleb Williams on the stretch. Like, those are some pretty tough defenses with, you know, good defensive lines. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to magically get better here. I think you're holding out hope for next year, and maybe – I don't know if you want to cut it right now, or do you think his value is going to go down even more if he continue to struggle over the next month and a half?
I think it will kind of, in my opinion, it will probably stay the same just because he was drafted 101, and you know, but it's funny. I was just looking at like how many shares of Caleb I have in the teams I have him on. Those 3 teams are all doing terribly, so it kind of is correlating, right? He's not doing well, and so if I had a higher share of Caleb, I'd probably explore and see about moving him. But with those 3 spots, you know, I think I'll just keep him and see. But you know, I don't know. As we talk, I'm kind of leaning now towards the side of like, oh, maybe I will take that 102, 103, and get myself a, you know, Tet, Genty, or whatever the next guy would be.
Do you think anybody's willing to do that? Do you think anybody believes in Caleb that much that they're going to send those early picks?
I think with the lack of quarterbacks in the next class, I think there's a lot of just people who maybe aren't stoked about him. I think you could probably see people doing it.
You might need to wait for a good game per se, like because like Bill said, he's seeing a May for Caleb. I think those are the type of things you're going to get done more than just a straight up pick. And so I think that's why, to me, it's sounding more enticing to grab that pick because I know it's going to be early and now I get, you know, a nice new shiny toy.
Yeah,
exactly. Another thing too is that like people get like stuck on these players. Like we saw it with Trey Lance, that we're seeing it with Anthony Richardson, where guys are just like, nah, this is my guy. And Caleb Williams, he's what, like 21 or 20, maybe 22, where people are like, man, he's so young, like he has time, and it's like that's great, but NFL teams don't really think that way. But dynasty managers do, and so I'm sure there's plenty of, you know, Caleb Williams truthers out there you can go find that have bad teams.
Yeah, so this is exactly kind of where I was going with is like just wait for like what happens down the line a little bit more. You know, I'm not saying, you know, Ben Johnson's going to go to the Bears. Like that may not happen. But if they get rid of their head coach, if that happens, like I think there's better days ahead for Caleb, in my opinion. So on the spots I have him, I'm probably holding. So I think with people with a higher rostership, right? I wouldn't mind them moving him for a May or a Knicks or something like that. I know earlier in the season or during rookie draft time, you would have been like, you're crazy for that. But what we've seen, I think with May and Knicks and with the weapons they have and they're producing really well, I think they're both solid quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would just exercise a little caution hoping that a new coach comes in and saves the quarterback. There was a lot of smart people talking about how Bryce Young was going to be saved by the quarterback whisperer out in Carolina, and it didn't go super great.
Even us, both like I don't know about both of us, but yeah, I thought that would get better. So I personally not thinking Caleb is Bryce Young. I think there's a little bit more deeper down going on with Bryce Young, but you never know. You never know, right? So just I think it's something to explore.
For sure.
Definitely. Okay, we got wide receiver Chris Olave. He is currently wide receiver 25 on KTC. It's a late 25 first. What are you guys doing with Olave? Buy, sell, or hold?
I think personally, I'm at a point where I don't know if Chris Olave is ever going to be in a good situation quarterback wise or offensive wise, where he's going to be worth what his perceived value is. He has a lot of name value, but he hasn't ever necessarily produced. So I'm one to just kind of admit defeat on a prospect, and if I can get a late first for him and just kind of reset and try again, I tend to do that. I know a lot of people would like to hold and just end it, and there's good points for the opposite of that, right? Of like, well, he's still really talented. He's had, just awful quarterback play, and I get that. But at the same time, like Rashid Shaheed was tearing it up with the same quarterbacks that Chris Olave had. So and now this is what I think his third pretty serious concussion in the last like 2 years. And I think he had one in college too that wasn't. Yep. So there's definitely concern there too. Man, I don't know. What are you guys thinking? I think I'm leaning towards selling for a late first, but I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, so if I can get out from Chris Olave, I will. Like that name, he coming from Ohio State, he's got that name, kind of the name brand of wide receiver. It's just like it hasn't been put together well, And then with the injuries, the concussions, I don't know exactly what's happening with Derek Carr and the Saints moving on. I think they would want to move on from him. They have a 3-something right now, 3-7, 3-6. So for me, if I can move on from Chris Olave, I would. I think it's just hard right now because injured. I think he's going on IR. So I just think right now it's going to be tough. If I can buy him on the cheap on a team that is, struggling or whatever, I think I would do it just because we still don't know for sure. He could be solid. But like you're saying, maybe we do know. Maybe that's just what he is. He's a boomer bust guy. If he gets the targets, if he gets the catches, he'll get the points. But maybe he's just a back end wide receiver 2 guy. But he's ranked at wide receiver 1, right? So I think if I can get a first for him, I'm taking it all the time. If I can maneuver myself to where getting. I don't think he gets done, but like a Rashee Rice, if we get some good news with Chris Olave that he's coming back, I personally don't think that gets done. Or like an Ayuk, I also don't think that gets done. So I just think right now it's if you can get that first, great. But right now I think you might be having to hold with Chris Olave.
I'm curious. So when you said you wanted to buy cheap, what is like cheap for you? Like, what do you feel good about acquiring him for?
So if I could move like a Debo, if I might have to add a little bit to Debo, I don't think I would do it. But if I can move Debo for Chris Olave, which I again don't think that happens, but someone like that, moving like a wide receiver that's in the same tier, but I kind of feel a little bit better about him, I would do that. Let me pull my rankings up real quick. I haven't really adjusted Olave as I should. But yeah, I mean, if you have like somebody that's a believer that maybe Olave is coming back after his 4-game stint on the IR, if you can move an Ayuk for an Olave, I would do it. Like if
What
I
about
can
JSN?
See, I'm not fully sold on JSN just because we haven't seen it with
trigger run.
DK yet. Because I think obviously DK Metcalf is that alpha there, right? And so when he comes back and he's healthy, it's just tough. And I still believe a little bit in Chris Olave, as he should. Like at the end of the day, he should be that wide receiver 1 on his team. So. Yeah, I mean, I think as if I could get, I don't think it gets done, but if I can get a Tank Dell, I would do it. I'm kind of out on Michael Pittman, so I wouldn't do that. But like, I tried to Zay Flowers on a team that I'm competing, and I have Chris Olave, trying to move Chris Olave for Zay Flowers straight up. Didn't get done. So I think Olave, even though he's ranked pretty high still, I think he's kind of down.
Mm-hmm. I moved Olave for George Pickens in a league.
Love that.
I moved my first, so I needed the points. But also, that's kind of to the point where I've gotten with Chris Olave. I tried to move Chris Olave like all off season off of those wide receiver 1 prices and where people were valuing him. Nobody was willing to pay up for him. And then also you bake in the injury concerns, quarterback question marks. It all just kind of spells a little bit of doom and gloom for Olave until he just, pops on the scene and just explodes. Like, I think he's a good receiver. And McSpanky, you asked about JSN. Like, I think they're probably pretty close to equal at this point in time. Like, I could view them as kind of the same style of receiver at this point. I just don't think he's the wide receiver 1 that we were kind of sold on coming into the draft. I don't think that has come to fruition for him. I still think he's a good player, but I think that he needs some sort of help outside of himself in that offense.
So this was done 3 days ago, and so obviously I don't think it happens anymore with knowing Anthony Richardson is coming back. But Josh Downs and a 4th for Chris Olave, I would do that in a heartbeat, right? Because I know Downs is a solid player and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure Richardson is the guy going to be the quarterback there, especially like the rest of the season. So like that is on the cheap, in my opinion. And so I don't think that gets done anymore. But I do know that probably got done. Obviously it did, but I think it would have gotten done a lot more if Joe Flacco was continuing over the next couple weeks, a couple weeks, right? So something like that is what I mean by like cheap. But I in our leagues that we play, I don't think that gets done.
I don't think so either. But I will say that like Olave and Downs, I think there's some similarities there, and that they're both good receivers with bad quarterback play. The one thing I will say is that Chris Olave has a lot of like name value, which does mean things when you are trying to trade. Josh Downs, people see the name and they go, I don't really want that.
100%.
Whether it's fair or not, it is what it is. But
so I
do Olave or Loud McConkey straight up.
Whew.
Oh man,
that's tough.
I think I'm gonna take Ladd at this point because I
love
my dude Ladd, man, and I think I don't know, he gets Justin Herbert. He's kind of flashed a little bit here. I think he's also similar in the vein of what we're talking about with Olave and kind of that wide receiver 2 of his team. But Ladd has the benefit of having Justin Herbert. He also has Jim Harbaugh, solid offense. Everything's on the up and up for LA, and everything's trending down in New Orleans right now. So, yeah, I think Ladd is probably the better bet. Honestly, similar injury concerns, though.
Totally, yeah. Wes, that's I just showed it, but that's impressive. Like, I think it's the name value getting me, but I know Wes says he's high on Downs, but that one's tough for me. I would need probably at least I don't think it ever gets done, but I would need at least a second to move Olave to Downs.
So for what it's worth, Chris Olave.
Yeah, I know. Points wise, they're very similar. It has to be.
It's bad. The Downs is about 14 PPR points a game, whereas Olave's been at 9.7. So
there's been so many games where, there's been so many games where Olave has not been. And if we look at like points per game, like Alec Pierce, I saw a stat that Alec Pierce has the same amount of wide receiver 1 finishes as I think it was Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson or something like that. So it's crazy. There's a lot of spike games with Downs and Pierce, but I'm not saying Pierce and Downs are the same thing at all. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I think Downs and Olave are a lot closer than what I think.
And to be fair, that stat did count the games where Olave started and didn't finish, which has been a handful of them. So I'm curious if it is a little closer to even if you count only the games he started and finished. But
the people that if Olave's starting a game, 99% of the people are starting Olave. So we got to put those into in my opinion, right? And so I probably have to go back to the drawing board here with Josh Downs, but I think if we can see a little bit more with Anthony Richardson and Josh Downs putting up some better numbers, I think, I think I wouldn't be, I wouldn't fault anybody for going from Olave to Downs if you can get a small plus on the downside.
Yeah, still tough. I love Downs with the sickness, but it's just more quarterback concerns, and I think just the name value of Olave still holds some weight. I mean, we'll see when these 2025 rookies roll in here what happens to Olave. He might wind up getting buried with some of these new guys coming in here.
Totally. I think another cop-out answer, but I think it will really depend on what happens with New Orleans quarterback coaching, things like that. Like for me, usually New Orleans is a good situation. They're in a good situation. Their team's good, I think. But if I was a coach looking at that, like I need a new quarterback. I can't go in there and be the head coach and have Derek Carr. So I think that might turn some guys away.
Definitely.
I certainly wouldn't want Derek Carr as my quarterback.
Yep, I agree.
I think you guys know that by now.
Okay, let's move on to the running back here, Mr. Audric Estime. He kind of took over a little bit for Javonte this week. I know it wasn't like super pretty in the stats column or anything, but the volume was there, and just to put a little hope behind some better stats coming, he did play the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's a really solid run defense. So I'm kind of excited for Audric Estime. I was taking him late in rookie drafts and everything this past year. It looks like he might be taking over for Javonte. What do you guys think about Audric Estime?
So I was just pulling up their snap counts. Estime outsnapped him 26-17. Sorry. Apologies, missed the mute button. He also got like all carries though. Like Javonte was on the field, but he didn't really carry the ball. Right. And so that's an interesting thing. But the thing that was kind of disappointing was Estime didn't really do anything for those carries. It's 14 attempts for 53 yards, no touchdowns. I would have liked to have seen him do a little bit more. However, Kansas City has, they have a good defense. I think there might be some better days ahead. I would like to see that continue, and then I'd be a little bit more excited. I really liked Audric Estime coming into the draft process. Unfortunately, he took the same route Kyren Williams did, in that they decided that they were just going to jog there 40 times, and it kind of killed the draft capital. It is what it is. He's a better running back than that, I think. But I'm curious, do you guys think he's going to kind of continue getting this work, or is that like a one-game thing?
I never know what to think. Yeah, so I think he's going to keep getting the work, but it's Sean Payton, right? I never know what's going to happen with Sean Payton. Right. Like for some reason, he didn't like Javonte last game. I think obviously there's more to that. But if Audric Estime can run well, can keep the ball, right? I know he before he got injured, he fumbled the ball a couple times. Even I think it was in the preseason, he fumbled a couple times as well. So I think if he can keep the ball, right, and he can run well, I think Sean Payton's just going to go with the hot hand. And I think, exactly. Greg, like Sean Payton lies, we can't trust him with anything, right? So, but I think at the end of the day, I don't know if we really want any running back out of the Broncos backfield, because Nix is going to run the ball a bit, so I think they're more of like a pass first offense. Kind of weird to say that, but that's more of, I think, what, Nix is doing. And if he's not going to pass, then he's probably going to run himself. And so there's only going to be a handful of, touches for the running backs out of Denver.
No, for sure. I think that might be really the key point is I don't think you necessarily want any of them, and you don't feel good about starting any of them either. The one thing I will say about Estime too is that going back to his time at Notre Dame, he does have a bit of a fumbling problem. That's always been kind of an issue. He's done that a couple times, and some fairly big moments, which is a little frustrating with his ball security. It seems like it's not quite fixed, so we'll see. But I don't think that's gonna go too.
Yeah, so that's why I brought it up, because I think with him being a rookie, he fumbles the ball one more time and that he's benched, right? So and they have Javonte Williams right there, and like Javonte's been okay. But for me, at the end of the day, I don't feel comfortable with any of those running backs. Jalil's been, you can't play Jalil at all. And I thought coming into it, like, oh, sweet, Jalil's going to be a nice, fill-in guy, but like unplayable.
You can't play any of them. It seems like.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is, but like Javonte hasn't really done that great. He had that one nice Thursday night game against the Saints where he ran wild, but the rest of the time he's been in there, he's just kind of been ho-hum. Estime was a little bit more of the same, other than that he's a new face and maybe he'll get better. Javonte, I think, might be who he is at this point.
Totally.
I don't know, and I'm curious too. Like if Sean Payton is running Estime out there to see, like, okay, is this the guy I can count on next year, or do I need to draft another one and hope for the best? I don't know. Like, what gets it done for Estime right now? Like, if you're looking to, let's say you believe in the guy, Ron. I know you said you had a bunch of him. Let's say you believe in him. What are you willing to give up to get him, or are you just saying, like, I'm happy with the shares I have? I don't think it's worth even acquiring.
Right now, I don't think it's worth acquiring, because I think everybody's brought up some really good points, on the Sean Payton thing and everything, and also with the fumbling issues. And like I said, I have a ton from rookie drafts I can't even remember what round I was taking them in, but it was super late, and it almost felt like, just free passes at him. Sure. I am excited though, because I do think that he's a Sean Payton guy. Like, Sean Payton did not draft Javonte Williams. And I think Sean Payton, handpicked this guy. We've seen Sean Payton in New Orleans have, the two-back system or whatever. And I think it might be more of a bet on Audric Estime's future as opposed to probably this season with Estime. I think, maybe next year he could be, that part of a 1-2 punch for that Broncos offense when they get a few more pieces in there, because clearly they're out there succeeding. It's not super pretty, but they're out there succeeding with Bo Nix, and like McSpanky has already thrown the wide receivers under the bus, but they're out there, doing enough to stay competitive in games and be a competitive team. And I think you add a few more things there, and Sean Payton's always had a good run game. So I want to find the running back that is there.
I mean, they could have beaten Kansas City this last week if their field goal wasn't blocked.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. People are crazy. I just pulled up trades on Dynasty Daddy for Estime. This one has me tilted.
2-3 first. No,
Audric Estime and Tyler Algier for DK Metcalf. Like, come on, people.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Like, come on, people. We got George Pickens for Audric Estime and at first. That's fine if you are kind of.
That's more. That feels like Estime was a throw-in.
Exactly. Yeah. So Jalen Warren for Audric Estime. I think there's better days ahead for Warren, so I think that one's fine.
I don't mind that one, actually.
A third for Audric Estime, that's totally fine. So this one's fine as well. Audric Estime for Kareem Hunt. We see that Pacheco's coming back. I think it will be interesting to see what it'll be like when Pacheco's back. So but there could be some. Obviously, there's Estime truthers out there. So in my opinion, if you have him, I would see what you can get for him. I at the end of the day, I don't trust Sean Payton. I know he drafted him, but Wes makes a good point here. Like Estimate's probably fine for the rest of the year, but I think next year he's going to draft another running back.
I was just gonna say this next class, it might not have a lot of quarterbacks, but what it does have is some good running backs.
Yep.
And the Broncos are probably in the sweepstakes for getting one in that day 2 range, whether it's like a Quinshon Judkins, whether it's a Nick Singleton, maybe even a Travion Henderson might be a nice little home run hitter to kind of counterpunch.
Yep.
Estimate is more of a physical guy.
I've seen some crazy mocks out there. Yeah. So, it just depends. Genty even came out and said he wants to go play for the Cowboys. Like so it all depends. That'd be nice in my opinion.
Honestly, I hope he doesn't, because the Cowboys are just kind of existing these days.
It would be nice. I don't. Genty in the silver and black, man. We can ruin some good players. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I have. So currently, I'm not done with my rankings, but I have 5 running backs in my top 10. Genty, Judkins, Hampton, Henderson, Singleton. So
Hampton's one, and we should talk about him when we do a Debbie show.
Yep,
but he's one that I go back and forth on.
Yeah. Yep. He'll probably drop down below Henderson and Singleton for me, but when I first did it, he's up there at number 5.
Okay. Should we pop down to the tight ends?
Yeah.
Please. I've been waiting for this.
Jatavian Sanders.
My man.
This was Holler's guy coming into the draft season, man. Yep. What are you willing to pay for this guy, for Jatavian Sanders right now, Holler?
So I would spend a mid-second. So I think he's at a point where you can feel comfortable starting him. I have it's not a big deal, but I have a good amount of him. I was getting him in the back end of the second, getting him in, sometimes early third. And like he's popping earlier than I thought. And I think, with the lack of wide receivers in Carolina, I think it's going to be solid the rest of the year. Like even if they go back to Andy Dalton, I still think it's going to be good with Jatavian Sanders. And he's probably a darling in start 2 tight ends, because if you got him super, like he probably was earlier in those drafts. But if you have him there, you're happy. You're honestly probably going to have to send an early second to get him in a 2 start 2 tight end. Those leagues suck, but there's a lot of them out there. And so, but for me, I think just he's at tight end 19. And so if people are not bought in on Sanders yet, take advantage of that tight end 19, and you can get him for a mid-second, in my opinion.
I think even in just like a tight end premium, just one tight end, I think you're going to have to spend more than a 25 second or a mid second.
Probably,
just because I think people that have him are like, hey, he's been playing really good and doing better than I expected. So if you want to get him from me, like you're gonna have to overpay, because I'm content just to kind of see where this goes. And a mid 25 second is probably about where he was drafted. So they're gonna want to see a return on their like some kind of increase. So I think you have to send probably an early second. If not, I think a late one's crazy. I think you have to get something back for it. But maybe you send a mid 25 second, and if you're feeling frosty with your team, maybe a 26-2 as well, or 26, maybe 25-2 and a 3, just to kind of give it a little extra juice.
That's a good
there.
one. So I believe in Sanders quite a bit. I do have a little bit of a hold in his longevity because of he's not a good blocker. So there's going to be a lot of times if the Panthers get better, their running backs are playing really, really well. So it is actually a good sign that he's staying on the field. So I probably would need the problem is Njoku's playing really well with Jameis Winston. It's like his top guy. And Njoku, I don't know if you looked this up, Spanky, but Njoku is 28. So he's still not too old, in my opinion, in tight end world. So I don't think this gets done, but I would probably need a second to move to Sanders. And this is the guy that really likes Ja'Tavion Sanders.
Honestly, but here's the thing, like, are you getting that much more production from David Njoku than you are from Ja'Tavion Sanders right now?
Probably not.
So, like, realistically, man, I don't know. Maybe a late 2.
Yeah, I think if I were to get, like, I know I said it's 2, but if I were to get a third, but the problem is I think I'll just keep Sanders. Yeah, no, I'll just keep Sanders if I have him. And if I'm on the Njoku side, I'll probably just keep Njoku, right? I don't think I'm really going to. So Njoku's had two double-digit. I think this is PPR. I just pulled up fantasydata.com. And he has basically 2. Yeah, I did it to PPR. He has 2 games over double-digit points. And that's the 20th and the 27th of October. Everything else has been 8, 2, 8, and 7. And then let me pull up Ja'Tavion Sanders real quick. And I'm pretty sure the last 3 games he has had double-digit fantasy.
What if I told you I gave you Ja'Tavion Sanders and Jacoby Myers to get to David Njoku?
I'm taking the Sanders and Myers.
I think so too.
Because we didn't really hit it on the news, but Minshew's coming back and he slings the ball, right? It's going to be Bowers and
he slings it.
Yeah.
That was to his right team.
And for what it's worth, Ja'Tavion Sanders, I don't, this is just straight PPR. So I'm sure the other leagues he's had more points, but his last 5 games was 9, 12, 1, 12, and 8. That's his last 5 games. So, I don't think you need much to move Sanders to Njoku and vice versa. But yeah, I'm with you, Greg. Give me Sanders and Jacoby.
I mean, the last 4 weeks, not including this last week because Njoku was on bye, Ja'Tavion Sanders has outscored Njoku twice, and Njoku's outscored him twice. So, like, it's pretty even, honestly. Plus, Sanders is younger. The one thing I will say to exercise a little bit of caution, the Panthers are a mess. They have I think they have 3, maybe 4 active wide receivers on the roster right now. So Ja'Tavion Sanders is getting a ton of run. Let's say that I don't think they're a very well run organization, but let's say they fix that and they run a normal NFL offense with an appropriate number of wide receivers. Is Sanders going to still get the same snap count and the same usage in the offense? I think there's definitely, whereas we know Njoku's kind of more of a focal point for
definitely.
Yeah. And we don't necessarily know, we can say this about anything, but we don't necessarily know what's going to happen with the Browns and their coaching staff and their quarterback and things like that. So, and then if Njoku moves to another team, we know what Njoku is, right? And so, like I said, I know Sanders is younger, but at 28, Njoku's not that old in the tight end world.
Definitely.
Travis Kelce out here at 33, just
still killing it.
Yeah.
32. I might have made him too old. He's 35. He's 35.
Oh, wow. Man, oh, man.
It's old as hell.
Grandpa.
Yeah. Super ancient. Who would be that old? Anyway, you guys want to continue starts of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'm going to start this off. JT, wherever you are, cover your ears, cover your eyes, whatever you need to do. I'm going to go with CJ Stroud for my quarterback. Dallas has been a good matchup for everybody this year. And Nico Collins should be coming back. And Tank Dell has also returned to form a little bit here for CJ. Yep. And I think they're going to be coming out looking to make a statement here on, I believe they're Monday night this week. So I think CJ Stroud, fire him up this week.
They are Monday night because Nico Collins is That's a scary season about whether or not he's going to play. I think he will.
I think
He
so
should.
too.
Yeah, he should play. He's been practicing.
Yeah.
All right. I got Russell Wilson. Maybe he's starting to cook a meal that we actually want to eat. So in those last 3 games, he's averaged 19 points per game. And Baltimore's given up the most passing yards and 10 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. So that secondary has been rough. We just saw wow, brain fart. But Joe Burrow just gave up they almost gave up 500 yards to him. So,
Yeah.
I think Russell Wilson and George Pickens should have a great game.
Give me Jared Goff. He's back in the confines of his dome. He's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have not been good this year. I know they played fairly good defense last week, but they've given the 3rd most points to quarterbacks this year. Jared Goff, I know, has had a little bit of up and down, not necessarily playing his best football. He's got Jameson Williams back. I think he's kind of more on the uptick. I like Jared Goff to, be a top 12 quarterback this week.
I expect a JMO deep bomb this week, that's for sure.
Yep. I think it's a good bounce back for Goff after giving up, 5-6 interceptions.
He was just getting them all out of the way in one game. That's all he was doing.
Yeah. Exactly. Being efficient. Yeah.
Right. Let's just get this out of the way right now, guys. Anyway, so my running back of the week, gonna get a little wild here. It's Audric Estime.
Love it.
I think the Falcons are a middle of the road rush defense, and like we had talked about, he seemingly outtouched Javonte pretty easily in that game, and that was against a tough Chiefs defense. I'm excited to see what he can do, against a middle of the road defense in Atlanta, in which should be a competitive game for the teams.
Love it. I have where'd he go? Crap. He's back. Brian Robinson, baby. Caveat: if he doesn't play, I think he's playing, but if he doesn't play, start
injury report. He should be good.
He should be good, but if he doesn't play, then start Eckler. But anyway, Robinson, when he's been playing, he's been averaging 14 points per game. He's been I'm not going to say great. He's been really, really good for running back 2 standards. He's coming off an injury, and it's a Thursday night game, but he's missed 2 games. So I think since it's a Thursday night game, I'm pretty sure he's good to go. And I think the Commanders' offense has been really, really good. And so at the goal line, Jaden Daniels is not really getting as many of those runs as like we would think in general, right? He's more getting in the end zone if it's like a kind of a broken or like a good run outside of the 20. So they're really giving it to the running backs, and I think they do feel more comfortable with Brian Robinson than Austin Eckler. I do think when they're both playing, Eckler takes a step back. So I feel comfortable with Brian Robinson, and he's my guy.
I mean, Jeremy McNichols was getting goal line carries last week. My running back start of the week is Kareem Hunt. They get the Buffalo Bills this week. I know those games, the Chiefs-Bills games are always a little bit crazy. The Chiefs run the ball really well. The Bills don't stop the run particularly well. Give me Kareem Hunt. I think he finds the end zone.
This might be the last week. Yeah.
Maybe twice. And this might be the last time you get to do it before Pacheco's back.
Yeah, definitely. For my wide receiver start of the week, I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle. Tua's returned. Tyreek's got this mysterious torn wrist ligament that is kind of lingering, and they're also playing the Raiders this weekend. So I think there's a good chance that Waddle can just get loose, man. It shouldn't take too much to see Waddle return to form.
And he was really good last game. And it was mainly
other than that one drop, man.
Yeah, had a really bad drop, but he had like almost 50 yards in that first drive. So I think it will be more of that for the whole game against the Raiders.
Yeah, I think so too.
Calvin Ridley for me, I think this guy's gonna be super good for you at the rest of the season. Contender, I would go out and see what his price is, just because they have a very friendly schedule. I know he's tied to the Mayo Man, and that's really not great. But the guy has put up over like 20 points the last 2 games. Last week he had 2 touchdowns. And this week he gets the Vikings, and the Vikings secondary really isn't very good. They're giving up the 6th most yards and 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. So I think it's another good week for him. And to me, I just think, if you need some like flex option, I would go out and see what you can acquire Ridley for.
Love it. My wide receiver start of the week, Ladd McConkey. We talked about it a little bit earlier. They get the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Bengals haven't been able to stop anybody. I mean, Rashad Bateman was torching them last week, and anyone besides Deontay Johnson was just
Kylan Wallace too.
Just toasting DVs. I like Ladd McConkey. He's a really good player. The Chargers are throwing the ball pretty well. Seems like Harbaugh has like a huge man crush on Justin Herbert, and just let him throw it anywhere. So I think Ladd's in for a nice week this week.
Man, Herbert's looking really, really good.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's weird that he's still good at football despite Jim Harbaugh wanting to run it 85 times a game. You know what I mean? Crazy how that happens. Okay, my tight end start of the week is Njoku, and the only notes I have is just Jameis. Huck it, chuck it, football, baby. Let's roll.
All you need.
Yes, sir. We just talked about that. The hog daddy for me, Hunter Henry. He gets the Rams. Their secondary is terrible. Their linebackers are terrible. The only thing good about the Rams right now is their front, front like 5. Their linemen. So. Yes. Except last week, obviously Henry had a really bad game, kind of a big blunder there, but he's kind of his Drake May's top guy. He's averaging 11 points per game. He's seeing consistent volume, and with the amount of buys this week, I think you feel good about starting Hunter Henry.
All right, my tight end start of the week, not one I'm super stoked about, but Pat Freiermuth. I know he's been letting us down. He hasn't been great. They get the Baltimore Ravens this week on divisional showdown. The Ravens defense has given up a ton of points to tight ends. They kind of, for a really good defense, or what's appears to be a good defense, they kind of give up a ton of yards to opposing tight ends and wide receivers. I think if there's a week that Muth is going to get loose, it might be this one. So I'm throwing him in there and hoping the Muth gets loose.
Yep. That's nice with my Russ start as my QB start of the week. So
perfect.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for some Pickens. The Pickens I traded for this week, which inevitably means it'll be like 1 target for 10 yards somehow. But that's neither here nor there. You guys have anything else?
No, that's it.
I think that's all we
join the free Discord.
Yes.
Join the Patreon and check out our rankings. I updated my Debbie rankings. I have, what is it? Like 1 million players that I ranked, 200 of them in Debbie. It took me a couple, so I need to do an update because we had some players that we didn't have in there. So it'll be almost up to 250 players. There's some guys that I, don't know too much about, but I just kind of put them down at the bottom because also they don't have many stats. But yeah, take a look. Let us know what you think. If you're a big college person, let me know what you think. And, I probably messed up on some things.
You can find out how much Holler loves Drew Aller.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.